Hello everyone and welcome back to our Java class. Today is, as you can call, like episode 2 or class 2, where we're going to be talking about the introduction of variables. So if you can recall, last time we talked about print commands, and especially if we go back to our previous slides, we usually would go system.out.print and then we need quotations, right? And we would want to print out what we want to print. But when it comes to variables, you do not need these quotations. Why? Because the variables are storing a value. And all you have to do is you have to print out the variable, which will print out the value that is stored inside of the variable. So if this isn't really clear right now, it's normal. And I will clear it up in our slides today. So just a reminder, we will always need our online compiler. And so this is the link. I already have it open just to remind you. So when we talk about variable types, there's different like symbols that we have in our English language. We have letters, just like the alphabet. We have numbers, which are the two most common ones in English. But we have true or false. This is a new one. Oh, sorry about that. True or false. And here we have these three variable types. There's one more that is also very common, but it's classified in a different place. It's word. So words can also be held in variables, letters, numbers. So just like in math, right? Just in introduction, if you guys don't know what variables do in Java, if I have x plus 4 equals 3, right? This x is holding a number, but we don't know it yet. So we need to set it to something. So if you can solve it in math, x equals 3 minus 4, which is -1. So x equals -1. And basically what I'm doing here in math is I'm setting this variable to -1 to solve this equation. It's the same thing in Java, but there's no equals. You're just setting the variable to something, okay? So we have two types of variables. We have primitive and object variables. So primitive, there's a few main ones. There's double, there's int, which are the two main ones. And then there's boolean. While the object ones we'll talk about in a few days, or maybe in a day. But object ones are basically ones that's stored in a specific memory, while primitive ones are ones where you set them. So objects, one exception though that we commonly use is called string. So if you can remember or recall last slide, I had numbers, letters, words, and true or false. Boolean is what represents true or false. Integers, if you can recall in math, they mean numbers, and that's exactly what they mean. Numbers, or specifically integers. Why do I pull this up? Because, excuse my bad handwriting, but doubles are also numbers. So they refer to numbers as well. But what they are their decimals. So if I have 3.1, you can't say that's an integer. That's a decimal, right? So you have to use the double variable type and the integer variable type. You need to know the difference. And then the last one, string, these are responsible for words. So if I have like Dennis, which is my name, I need a string variable to hold the value of Dennis. So why would you ask? Well, why do I need this? Why can't I just say, oh, like name equals Dennis? Right? And the reason why we can't do this is the compiler, remember I said, that the compiler doesn't have a brain. You need to identify what this is in order to tell the computer You can't just assume the computer knows what it is, okay? So if we move on, we have these, right? So these I already talked about. But what I want to go further is if I want to declare a variable, for example, integer, right? Integer, like these regular numbers, I would have, if you say x equals 32, semicolon, that's wrong. You can't assume that x is an integer. You have to specifically specify. And that's why we talk about data types. So if you want to set a letter as an integer value, you have to indicate an integer in front of it. And then you put equals 32. So the format is data type. You'll get reminded again. So data type, and data type is like integer, double boolean. Your variable name, with a space in between, equals your value. So this is a very fundamental formula, as you can say, for variable declarations or data types. So as I already gone over, this might be in a review, integer whole numbers, right? In class, whole numbers, they cannot be decimals, while doubles are just decimals, right? 6.3, 0.9, 60,232.3933032. These are all doubles. So Boolean is just true or false. So if I say cats are dogs, well, this is obviously false. So a Boolean variable like check, if I want to check the statement if it's true or false, I can set it to false because cats are not dogs. So those are what Boolean does, and we can touch on them later. But for object variables, they're the ones that hold these objects, right? As I said earlier, we would discuss them next class, but one well-known is string, which is words. And how you declare a string is you still use the formula and then you write the name of your variable and then equals, but this time you have to use double quotation marks, because when you want to write a word or a phrase, you always need double quotations. Because if you don't have it, you're saying, oh, this variable will equal Dennis, the variable name. While this first statement is saying, oh, I'm setting this variable name, this empty one, where you can set it with whatever you want. This variable is equal to Dennis. So when I want to use this variable, when I want to use anything, I'll use the Dennis. But the second one is, I'll use whatever is inside the variable Dennis, because you don't have quotation marks around it. We'll go over this more later in the next slides. But for now, no, string is for words. And know that primitive data types are for integers, doubles, booleans, and you need to know each one, okay? So let's check for understanding. So if we have A int, B double, C boolean, and D string, and we have average grade, number of people in household, first name of person, record if it's raining or not, amount of money someone has, and you were to put a letter name next to each to see what data type resembles this. Please put your answer or your best educated guess for each, and we will review it. So we'll pause the video, and I'll see you soon. Okay, I hope you guys finished. Let's start. Average grade. When you have an average of something, you'll most likely, or not most likely, but sometimes you'll end up with a decimal. And doubles, one more thing just to note, doubles can be 3.0. 3.0 is okay. Okay, so integers can be doubles, because if I have an integer of 3, it's just 3.0. But a 3.0 can't go back to 3. That'll give you an error. Okay, so it's like squares are rectangles, but rectangles are not squares. Okay, so we would say average grade. Anyways, if I had like a 100 and then 95, the average of this is like 97.5, which is a decimal, right? Average grade. So we would need a double, right? We would need a decimal. So that's the first problem. Number of people in a household. So number, which means that it has to be a numerical value, meaning C and D are wrong, right? C is true or false, D is a word. So we can't have half a person in a household. We can't have like a fourth of a person in a household. So it can only be an integer, a whole person. So if there are 4 people in your household, you would say an integer of 4. Okay. First name of a person, if your name is a word, and recall int and doubles are numbers, so A and B are wrong. C is true or false, so it leads to D, and D is for resembling words, right? Record if it's raining or not. Can we say, oh, it's raining 1, it's raining 2? No, we can't say that. Can we say true, it is raining, or false, it is not raining? Yes. But also you can argue if it's raining or not. You can say yes, it's raining, which is like a sentence. So both of these are correct. Okay. But C is more efficient, but D is not wrong, right? You can say yes, it is raining. No, it is not raining with the sentence. Amount of money someone has. So if I have $25.15, this is a 25.15, right? And recall, if they're decimals, they must be a double. Okay, and this is a numerical value too. So B, D, A, C, or D, B. These are your answers.